Welcome, all you +2 comedy modifiers, back to the stream. Welcome to a very special episode as we have a puppet master interview. I've been making my way through the Phobos ARG, which has now concluded its first chapter, and I am very happy to have with me here live on the stream the puppet master of Phobos. I'm joined by Justin M. How you doing, Justin?
Doing great, doing great.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come and chat with me here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I got tons of questions because I played through the whole thing, in my opinion, pretty poorly, and I feel like I missed a lot of stuff. So I have tons of questions, but I'm going to start with, so what's your favorite musical?
That's surprisingly a tricky question.
It always is.
I've consumed a lot of them. Clearly, I really like. I do like Singing in the Rain. There was a lot of inspiration pulled from that.
Okay.
I like I like 50s musicals. I also like a lot of modern musicals. Shockingly, the Mean Girls musical is pretty good.
I've heard wonderful things about that one.
I went into that one expecting it not to be great, but it was. And then I got the chance to see Wicked. The touring production of Wicked, and that was phenomenal too.
Excellent, because let me tell you, one of my favorites is City of Angels, and very few people know that. So when you started doing Nothing Without Me, I was like, there's no way. So that blew me away.
I wanted to pick musicals to adapt into this that had that theme of someone controlling someone else, because that was the whole thing with Johnathan. The Singing in the Rain one was a bit more obtuse, but the plot of Singing in the Rain is there's the lady who's singing and they have someone else voice through her. So that's what is happening with Johnathan. That's the same thing with City of Angels, where it's the author creating the story and then he's arguing with his character.
Okay, all right. So that makes a lot of sense. And let's start there. What was the inspiration for this? How did you come up with the idea for Phobos?
So the idea itself, I actually remember pretty well, because I was walking my dog and I was listening to music, and then I put on, I don't remember why, I just started listening to those 50s infomercials, and there was one by Coronet called How to Control Your Emotions. And it was really ominous. And it was super make sure that, and it was that voice, and it was make sure you always follow all instructions given to you. And it was just very eerie. And at the same time, there was this ad for a pest control company that said are you afraid of insects? Remove them now. And I was like, that's sort of sparked that idea, those two ideas coming together.
Okay, that's awesome. That makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, and then go ahead.
So when you were coming up with this, the thing that I found most interesting was the launch. You launched with flyers, right?
Yeah. I got some friends, and we were in Temecula, Temecula is the real city I live in. It's a very small town. But we went around and we just we started putting up flyers. I had never done an ARG before. I barely even participated in any. I did Cypher Hunt a little bit.
Okay.
I was obviously younger when that happened, because I'm 18 now, but I was 17 when I started this. When the finale went up, I was 17. So I just turned 18 a few days ago.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you very much. So I had never really done it before, and I was looking. I was like, okay, Cypher Hunt had IRL stuff, and then obviously the stuff in that was the Gravity Falls ARG.
Right.
And that was fun. And then there was also I remember Portal 2 had some marketing like that, and then The Dark Knight did too. Yes. I had looked into those. Obviously, those had concluded by the time I got to them, but looking into how those were ran, I was like, okay, let's do some flyers. And I put them up, and people actually saw them, which I didn't think that would happen. I mostly just put them up, and I took a bunch of pictures of them in different quality, and I was going to post them as different people. I used, there's a social media site called Temecula Talks, or Patch. It's called Temecula Patch.
Okay.
And it's just this very boring, I lost my dog, I need a plumber, just all these things. So I started posting I made 4 or 5 different accounts as people, fake people on there, and had them interact for a few days, and then had them post the posters and interact with each other. Hey, I found this. What is this? It looks like a virus. And then posted to the Unsolved Mysteries subreddit.
Okay. So
that's where, and it really, yeah.
That's really interesting. So when you first had this idea of kind of this, was it always an ARG in your head?
I'll give a minor spoiler. People have already found it. So, but I had wanted to do an ARG for a while, and if you at the very last frame of the finale, that the black screen, people have brightened that, and it's an Instagram page called Timothy Easton Temecula, which is the
Okay.
name that the arcade machine Polybius mentions at the end. Timothy Easton was supposed to be a story that happened before this one. So the current chapter 2 was supposed to come first.
Oh.
And and if you go to that account's been there since early 2020, just sitting there. Like I was like, okay, I'll make it. It was during quarantine. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make an ARG. I'm gonna run it. It's gonna be short. And then I never touched it. Like I just set up the account and it was sitting there, and I never did anything with it.
Okay.
And that went through like 4 or 5 different ideas of what it was gonna be, and it never really got off the ground. So then I had already had the sort of like how I would distribute stuff, how I would go about spreading it. But then it was never, Phobos wasn't intended to be that ARG. Phobos was just going to be, I'm going to make these short little videos and share them. And then people were like, this looks like an ARG. I was like, okay, I'll put a Caesar cipher in the video. That'll take them a week to solve. And then people got it immediately. And then that was what surprised me. It's like this Discord server that has like 670 people now. I was like, oh, okay, people actually are interested in this. And now I need to up my game a little bit.
So that was Kermit's like investigation.
Yes, yeah,
right?
Kermit's detective agency, which is it was amazing, like to see that happen. Because what happened was I was like, okay, I'm gonna post this. I posted it on RARG. It got like a decent amount of traction, more than I expected. People were like, let's make a Discord server, and someone was like, I'll make a Discord server. So I went into that server with an alt account, and there were like 3 people in it. I was like, "Oh my god, 3 people! This is amazing!" Like I didn't expect people would actually talk about like this is bizarre. And then someone else was like, "Hey, we're solving this in another server already." And I went into that one. It was like, "Oh, it's at the time it was like, oh, it's 300 people. Okay, this is big." And they're cataloging clues in there, and that was really cool. That was really fun.
Excellent. So, like, I know that there's like more coming. So I'm gonna try to, let's try to keep this as spoiler free as we can.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because I know you got more planned. But I do want to ask, like, do you know how many chapters do you think this is gonna be?
Ideally 3. Realistically, right now, I'm shooting for 2.
Okay.
Because the story I want to tell in 3 is such a grand story compared to this one that I don't know if I have the means to feasibly do it right now in the way I want to do it. Like chapter 2, without getting into plot, chapter 2, first of all, is going to be like a full-on musical. Like not singing and dancing Broadway musical, but like it's going to have more songs. It's going to have more original music. I've been talking to some composers. So like an original score, and then it will be much more like less of the game itself is what you're watching, and more of you play the game and then you get these cinematics. So it's not going to be pausing videos looking for ciphers. It's going to be, let's look at this website. Let's look at this. These are just examples. Let's call this phone number. Like a more traditional ARG like that. And then you will get these brief episodes, which will be shot cinematically. Sort of like how the finale was.
Okay, interesting. That's very exciting to hear. And since you brought up the music, I got to ask you about like your music choices here, because you were jumping to Taylor Swift, and then the Beatles were showing up. Why the music choices?
I wanted to try to keep as much as I could in the 50s and 60s. I also noticed during one of your streams that the SpongeBob Sweet Victory thing kept coming up. That wasn't me. That was YouTube automatically puts recommendations if you get copyright claimed.
Right.
So that was not me. But most of the music was, which I'm not sure why that happened. I think it's because a lot of 50s music is technically usable under Creative Commons.
Right.
So you won't get struck for it, but because it's also used in like Ren and Stimpy and SpongeBob, then those companies can go, hey, we don't own the music, but this is music from an episode of SpongeBob, so we get to put this here, which is interesting, but I don't mind too much.
Yeah, music copyright is such a tough game to be playing, especially on Twitch, because Twitch will just mute the stream and not tell you, which
is exactly why the plan for Chapter 2 is like as much as I can will be completely original.
Excellent. I'm super excited for that. So let's get into what happened in this first chapter, because
all right.
I'm not sure. But so you have Johnathan Eldritch, which I first want to compliment the character design of Johnathan Eldritch, who is awesome. I love Johnathan. I loved his look. So like, because he was half animated, right?
Yep. Yeah. The eyebrows were actually animatronic. Like the eyebrows were real. The eyebrows were motorized. Yeah. If you can see, if you rewatch the public service announcement video, I'm wobbling on one foot because I'm controlling the joystick with my leg, like with the eyebrows.
Wow.
Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. My name is Johnathan Eldritch, and it is my honor and privilege as the founder of Phobos to demonstrate the trust Americans have in our brands. Clever children and adults alike know that the products and brands you see through your screens intend only to improve your lives.
Yeah, so like I actually contacted, because I used to do the Five Nights at Freddy's stuff. I used to build a bunch of those.
I saw that on your other channel.
Yeah, and I have a lot of good friends in that community. My buddy, the Regular Sauce, he has like 150,000 subscribers. He's a really good cosplayer. He helped me a lot with, fabricating those, and I was really into that. And I was building all the animatronics, and then like every time I would do something that wasn't Five Nights at Freddy's, someone would be like, "Hey, that's awesome. When's the next Five Nights at Freddy's thing?" And I was like, "Okay, maybe I want to try something different."
Okay.
Like I remember I did just this joke video, and it was called Hand Reveal, and of all things, it was a parody of the Full House opening, with like revealing what my hand looked like. And it was just a dumb idea, but like all the comments were like, "Hey, when are you gonna do the next Five Nights at Freddy's?" I was like, maybe I won't do the next one. Maybe I'll just focus. So like those eyebrows used some of the stuff I had learned from the FNAF stuff, and then I actually got in contact with one of the guys who developed the tech for the Chuck E. Cheese. So the software that ran it, and I emailed him a little bit. He was able to patch up the old software they used to run those. This old program called Track Skull.
Okay.
Yeah, and he patched it up for like modern tech, and I bought it off of him, so I have that on my computer, and that's what I used to run that. And I just use a gaming joystick, and I hook it up to a circuit board, and that's what the program's on.
That's incredible. Awesome.
Yeah, so they were really fun.
So I immediately fell in love with Johnathan. So, and he was being painted as the villain, and in my stream I was like, I'm just going to treat him like he's my favorite person, and I will do whatever he says. Because I love playing ARGs wrong.
Well, yeah, like that made the twist fun to see how you saw that, because a lot of people are like, he's evil 100%, we need to stop him. His name is literally Eldritch.
Yeah.
Which means like this abomination. And I was like, and it pulls a little bit from Lovecraft, but that was almost a misdirect because like it's nothing like Lovecraft.
Right.
Like in this, and there's even like that shot in the musical or in the Nothing Without Me where you see like this guy and this huge horrible abomination drawing next to him, and it was like, it's not that. Like this is very like, it's more Saturday morning cartoon than it is like horrible mind-ending end of the world stuff.
Right. So the first thing that you're kind of instructed to do is to fill out the survey, and I think I filled it out really late when it comes to people playing this. But what was the survey for?
So the survey was the hook. The survey and the posters were the hook. The ideal was, okay, let's get people to click on this, go to the website, go to the Instagram page, take the survey, and then there was a code in the survey, and like that was like, okay, we're going to go down this rabbit hole. Okay, why are they asking me for my fears? And then the video would come out, because the survey was before any of the videos, which is probably an important thing to clarify. Like, so that was like, oh, why are they asking for our fears? What do they need fears for? And then it was the ad that they were going to remove them. So that was the first, like, oh, they're going to remove the fears. And then I think like 850 people took that survey.
Oh, wow.
And some of them were really in depth. Some of them were less. Some of them were funny. Some of them were serious. Like there was a lot of, some people wrote like 10 paragraphs in some of their answers. And I read all of them. Like, they were all very interesting. And of course, I only put in the music video or the musical, I only put the ones that people permitted me to use. Like that was a thing I didn't want to do. I didn't want to just like,
that's good.
Here's this person's email address and
right.
Here. So.
That's a good point. So that's a really good point. So the plan was he was going to remove them, and then like it kind of created that feeling of like, what is he going to do with them? And right. I kept saying he was going to sell them.
Yeah, that was a funny idea. Like that, he was going. Well, that's the thing is like, and I don't know how clear it came across, but in the finale, he didn't actually consume quote unquote any of the fears. He was just trying to, like, he was legitimately helping. Like that was the twist, is that like he wasn't this evil maniacal creature trying to steal fears and eat them. The fear he made at the end was like this vegan synthesized fear. Like it wasn't really people's fear. Like that was fake.
Okay.
And he was being instructed to do this, and he was sort of being pitted against Godspeed, who's the investigator, also known as Timothy Easton. They're the same person.
Oh, okay. Because I definitely got that Godspeed was a person, and I definitely like in through like my off-screen like little bit of research, which I try not to do so I can keep my Let's Plays like has integrity. I know I was supposed to find a subreddit that I just never did.
Yeah, there was a lot more there in terms of foreshadowing, in terms of like what the Justice Department is, which is this overarching cosmic force, and it says it in the merchandise video. But that's like that. It's a thing that's pitting them against each other for mysterious reasons, which I will not reveal.
Okay.
But the way that people got the subreddit was the stars in the Fearless America video. It was 48 and 33, which you wrote down.
Yeah, I talked about it a lot. Did nothing with
it. The subreddit was R4833.
And
there was a ton of stuff in there. And I will say, there was a lot of stuff that nobody found, like even in the server. There's a lot of stuff, there's like another subreddit, there's another couple subreddits that people didn't find them after a couple months. And I was like, okay, I'm going to redistribute these clues somewhere else. Because it's not fun, I think, to just leave people with nothing and just have them wait there until it shows up. Because like there was a point where I was like, okay, if they're not solving this now, they'll probably never solve it. And that's one thing I learned from this, is that I think I made things way too hard, way too quickly. Mm-hmm. Is it was like, because again, I was like, okay, a couple people are going to write down the Caesar cipher and that'll be it. And I was like, oh, they did it in 1 minute. Like when it first came out, there was a countdown until it came out. It was like a date reveal. Right. And it was counting down until the first video. And that went up and that went live and people found it. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to see them like, pour over this. And then it was like, oh, we solved it all. That's it.
Done.
And it was done. And I was like, oh, okay. I need to maybe make a little, and then I made it a little harder. Some of the numbers that appear in the videos on like there's a video with a, what's it called, like one of those, it shows like a $sign and cents. And that number was for a Gronsfeld cipher. And I think that one got solved by the server. But I think there was a lack for me of direction as to what clues went to where, which is something that will be improved upon, because it was too much too soon, and it was like, okay, they had all it's like everyone had the puzzle pieces, but they had like 5 puzzle pieces like mixed into one box.
Okay, because what I was basically understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the person I kept calling the interrupter is Godspeed.
Yes.
And Godspeed, it was trying to stop Johnathan because he believed he was evil. But they were both like being used by the Justice Department.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I feel smart. I needed that.
Yeah. And the way in which Timothy, or Godspeed, I'll call him, it was being used and why he got to that point will be explored a lot in Chapter 2. Like there will be more on him and why he's there and what he's doing.
Okay. All right.
Because I think Johnathan. I think we get Johnathan at this point after the finale. I think I've said enough about Johnathan that people understand who he is, what he wants, what his motivations are. Godspeed doesn't have a lot of that. He's mostly a player stand-in.
Yeah.
So we will get more on him and what he is and where he comes from and what's happened to him to get him to this point, and that will be in Chapter 2.
I mean, you didn't even give Godspeed a voice in the finale.
No, he didn't. The reason he didn't have a voice in the finale, which kind of functioned nicely as the players can read this as they talk to him and say it in their own voice, which was nice. But the reason that didn't happen is the actor who plays Godspeed is actually my brother, was in a theater production, so he couldn't participate. He wasn't available to lend his voice for that.
Okay, that makes sense too.
Yeah, but it worked, and I just wanted to get that out. So that was fun, and then even I lost my train of thought. Never mind.
That's okay. So speaking of like things that were not solved, the 4 code videos that came out, yes. I got one of them, and then I have no idea. So please explain this blue screen to me.
The blue screen, it is. I will admit that people did solve it in the server, but I admit that it was way too hard to see. Some of the little like flicks of white that would show up on the screen, like the 50s stuff. Yeah. Some of those were letters in the language, and people had to pick those out and solve them. And it was way too hard, but they did it. Like,
just missed them, I guess.
Yeah, it was just, and I think the video was so low res that it made it way harder.
Yeah.
One of the other ones, you got the Goodnight Kathy one, which was binary.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Then there was
good about that.
And then the other one was what was the fourth? I don't remember the fourth one, but the one that had the.
The Kathy one was Morse code.
Yes. Oh, Morse. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then you have one of them was slowed down. One of them was like ridiculously slowed down. You had to speed it up, and it was a song. And then the song, I believe, it was a song that was released twice by two different bands. It was Who Put the Bump, and you had to put the dates of the two releases.
Okay.
Which admittedly, again, was way too complicated and not directed.
There's a lot of stuff in that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like logical leaps that people had to make. So that will be something that I should improve upon. And then I do not remember the last one, because there was the Kathy one, there was the slowed down one.
The slowed down one's the purple like weird like hexagon, right?
Yeah. There was one.
There's two of those. There's that one, and then there's another one that's like the title's like code.
Oh yeah.
3.
No, yeah. The second one. Yeah, no, you're right. There were 3 codes. The second one was just I made it more obvious in the audio breakdown that there was music there.
Okay, so that was just a repost of the first one.
Yeah, it was an improved repost, and I think actually that second one had both versions playing. Like you could make the distinction that it was both versions, both releases.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So that was just a help, and people were able to get that one, which was nice. And then I don't remember. Was there a fourth? There was a fourth one. I don't remember what the fourth one was.
Now I'm not sure. But those gave you access codes, right?
Yes, the access codes were a thing in the subreddit. So when you put those into the subreddit, you would post the names, or they would send them to him, and that would that would not get you entry. That would the subreddit was locked. You had to give a password to get into the subreddit, and the way you gave a password was before the access codes were posted. It was all the misspellings. So it was all the misspellings in one text, and that worked. That was actually a fun thing to do, because the first one was an accident. And I was like, I could change this.
Oh, really?
Or I could add, I was like, or I could add more on purpose. And that's why there is the disclaimer that says, look out for misspellings. I put that there after I started doing it genuinely. I was like, okay, let's put more misspellings in the words and cipher misspellings, which again, admittedly, made the ciphering way more difficult. The way they got that language before the dead drop happened was that circle that popped up on the screen with all the text on it, the Rosetta Stone looking thing.
Yes.
The audio that plays when that's on screen is Who Put the Bump, again, really slowed down, and it lines up with the lyrics that are playing.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so when that segment sped up, I think 60 times, you get that Who Put the Bump really quickly, and then you fill in the lyrics on the circle, and you go around clockwise, and it tells you what those symbols mean, and that was enough for people to break it.
Wow, because I looked at that as that's the ending. That's once I have understood anything. This is the thing I solve. And no, it's the thing I should have solved first. Perfect.
Yeah, and then the dead drop, I think, was just a little because actually, shockingly, by that point, that was out, and then a couple of other videos came out. Before the dead drop happened, people had already got the whole language, except I think for W and Z, or Y and Z or something. They got most of the alphabet. So the key that's in the dead drop was just sort of a push of here's a little more, here's just confirmation of that. Here's an official one.
So the misspellings, which started as an actual mistake and then became a code, I thought was purposely to make it harder to decode. Was that not the case?
It wasn't really to make it harder to code, but I guess it wasn't super to make it easier.
Yeah.
That wasn't my intention, but I see how that happened. It was mostly okay, this is odd that it says it. It says access coast instead of access code. Maybe we take that S and put it somewhere else.
Interesting. All right. Because my thought was you didn't want me to solve it with a machine, which is what I immediately tried to do. And when it wasn't working, I was like, oh, there's something else going on here. I thought it was great. Just personally, I was like, that's a great move. So yeah, I really enjoyed this story so much. And
thank you.
The one thing that I'm always curious with these things is what effect we as the players truly had. So was
a large one?
A large one? Go ahead. Just go ahead.
Well, in terms of you had, first of all, the biggest one was that the people who were saying hey, this is way too easy. You suck. This is horrible. I didn't super care, but I went, okay, I'll make it super hard. So that was actually a whole thing in the Discord. So I think you can actually find on Reddit people going after those people in the comments on RAOG, because someone was like, nice
look what you did,
cipher, man. He was like, whoa. He's like, and they were funny. People were like, whoa, good job on that mind-bending Caesar cipher. I don't know how anyone's going to solve that. And then you see like 2 months later, someone's like, thanks, man. Now we have a 47-step cipher that we can't solve. Even actually, the thing with this is one of my favorite things that came out of this. There's that part in the musical where you see the bears and like the fear equals bear equals gone. That whole thing, like where it was saying like if you're afraid of bears and you get rid of the bear, then you're not afraid anymore.
Yeah.
That came from this guy on Reddit who is like vehemently arguing with Johnathan, he could not grasp that it was a character. Like he thought it was an insane. Like he was like, "What are you talking about? You can't remove fears." And I was like, "Of course you can." And like he was like just going after him. Johnathan was completely in character, and he was like, "Well, let's say I'm afraid of bears." He wrote like this whole paragraph. He's like, "Let's say I'm afraid of bears. Like, if I'm afraid of bears, it keeps me safe because if I see a bear, I run away." And Jonathan's like, "What if you remove the bear?" And the guy's just like, "What are you talking?" And then like you have like 3 or 4 people like being like, "This is like other players just being like, hey, this is an ARG. Like this is a character. This is not a real person." And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. What's an ARG?" And like either he was trolling me and I'm oblivious to it, but it went on for like 2 days, so I'm assuming he was completely oblivious.
That's incredible. I love it. Because I enjoyed that you were like taking the criticism and including it in the story. I thought that was like very unique choice.
Well, even at the end, the decision of Johnathan during his musical number, his decision to use the stone to remove to be the monster that everyone thinks he is, that is spurred on in many ways by the criticism people are levying against them. In fact, in the server with the sort of mini side story, which isn't crucial to the plot, but just has sort of other, tangential things, there was a whole push where everyone was like, okay, let's push Johnathan over the edge. And like, I got like 40 hate DMs, like, "You're horrible, you're evil, we hate you." So like, and that played into the story because that made the character of Johnathan use the stone and it pushed him over the edge. And it fit. So like when you go through his posts and you see all this hate, you see all these people like criticizing him, saying he's dumb, saying he's horrible, saying what he's doing is wrong, that just feeds into his character, which was really neat to see with this. Because like a movie villain typically doesn't react to the audience hating them.
Right.
And Johnathan did. Like that was a really fun thing to have happen.
I mean, that's why I love like this medium, is that like the crowd is a member of the story. So it's good to hear that they had like sway and stuff. So
absolutely.
Did it end the way you thought it was going to?
Yes, I did have an outline from start to finish. That was how it was going to end. Like that was always how it was going to end. It was always going to end with the 2 of them shaking hands. And it was always going to get there. There were some things that got cut. There was another musical episode that was based on the Music Man that got cut. And just some other shorter, like, in-between videos, like filler. But they weren't super important, and there wasn't really a reason to make them. Because once Godspeed, quote-unquote, dies, and once the dead drop happens, it really goes quiet for a minute. Mm-hmm. There's like a month where nothing happens, and that would have been a bunch of other stuff, but it wouldn't have really added anything. So I just left it.
So, you touched on something I was a little curious about. The video where the "I Think We're Alone Now" video where the dead drop happens.
Yes.
We are supposed to take that is Godspeed.
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was Godspeed or a follower of Godspeed. And
it was supposed to be him, yeah.
And are we supposed to take that as a death?
People were supposed to take it as he's out of the picture for a little while. That was like, okay, you're alone now. You're doing this on your... Because Godspeed was helping people a little bit. Like, when you would DM Godspeed, he'd give you, like, a clue to the ciphers. And I was like, you know what? They've done a lot. Let's give you... And to be honest, like, that 2 months there was the dot puzzle, which was all those dots that come up, that long ellipses. That was a code.
I saw that and I was like, I bet that's a code, but man, not want to try to go through this.
That is my favorite puzzle I made for this, and that is the one I'm like, I am happy I did that. I don't think it was too hard. I just think it was the right amount of difficult that it took people a really long time, and then there was that person who had a light bulb, like, hey, light bulb, wait a minute. What if we did, is it this simple? And what that was those dots were, and in the description of that, it has a bunch of letters that line up with the dots, and it's a ciphered message. Oh. And there were 2 ways people could have solved that. The absurdly hard way was you take all the numbers from the videos, put them in a multi-step Gronsfeld cipher, and you solve it, and you get the text, what it says. Which the answer to that is in the video, the Valentine's video.
Okay.
So, but that text about Kathy, and that it's from Singing in the Rain. So what people had to do with that is the dead drop. Okay, let me again. It is absurdly complicated, but there's a number that kept popping up, and it's from the Lovecraft story this is based on loosely. It's 1843. So in Lovecraft, 1843 is the year that Nyarlathotep, which is this monster that is loosely Johnathan, that monster steals that stone, that shining stone, the thing that he has.
Okay.
The trapezohedron, which is from Lovecraft. That's a Lovecraft creation.
Okay.
It was 1843 is the year that it's stolen by him. And people assumed that number, which would pop up in Reddit, it would pop up, and it's on the dead drop. People assumed, okay, 1843, that's the year that he goes missing. What it actually was 18 minutes and 43 seconds into Singing in the Rain. There's a quote about loneliness and about having it all and losing, and that quote lines up with the dots.
Oh my goodness.
Which, again, ridiculously complicated. But people solved it. Like, it took a while, but it was like...
How did they make the jump to Singing in the Rain?
Oh, he kept mentioning it on Reddit. He kept mentioning Singing in the Rain, and then in the musical, there's a timestamp on the dead drop, a separate timestamp, and it's the time in the musical. There's a timestamp. Where is the timestamp? One of the videos has a timestamp in it, and the timestamp is the part in the musical, the Nothing Without Me musical, where he has the umbrella and he's on the lamppost from Singing in the Rain.
Oh, okay.
But again, the jump to that from that, it was way too much to be solvable, so it took a really long time for people.
Yeah. What I'm learning is that trying to do this alone was a mistake.
I
needed friends.
And I think me trying to run it alone on my phone was a mistake.
That's another thing I want to bring up. You had a team of what, 4? Including yourself?
Well, I filmed and animated everything. I was in the Johnathan costume. I built it. I built the props. I wrote it. And then I filmed it, edited it, distributed it. Carly was the voice of Polybius at the end. My brother Dylan was Godspeed. And then Maxie, they edited that one video with the timeline breaking because I can't do fake camera movement. Okay. So they helped me with that. But yeah, that was the team. And it was not often working. We never worked together. It was just these like, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? Can you do this for me? And then I sort of put everything together. And yeah, it was on my phone. Like I shot it on my phone, animated it on my phone. The animation was very difficult on the eyes because I didn't know you can duplicate frames. So I drew with this tiny cheap stylus pen on my phone. Like I think it was like 9,000 individual frames. And it was just the most painful thing ever. So that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Which will not be made again. So
it's a learning process. That makes a lot of sense.
It's a learning process, yeah.
Because
next time, go ahead.
That end video, like you have the silhouette puppets, you had so much going on. How long did that last video take you?
A couple weeks to film and then another week to edit about.
Oh my goodness.
But like that was a lot of like, I wanted to do as many mediums of stuff as I could in this. Like I really like that was like I wanted to do an animation flashback. I wanted to do shadow puppets. There's a play my theater teacher told me about called Old Man and the Old Moon, and it's a very simple play with a very big story, and they show it through shadow puppets. So I really wanted to do that. So I built a bunch of shadow puppets. I built the box. I put everything out there. I put a lamp under it and filmed that. That was fun. And then some of the shadow puppets, like where his eyes are moving, is animated over the shadow puppets. So I had to overexpose it a lot. And then like the Lego animation was like a last minute idea that I filmed, edited, and uploaded that day. There was just a lot of stuff. But it was fun. I really liked trying those different mediums.
Yeah, and since you brought up the Lego, the Lego video is also the merch drop, right?
It is, yeah.
I loved that you did that. Because you can't profit off of ARGs. It's like so hard. Yeah. So when in the middle of this you dropped merch, I was like, oh, thank God somebody figured out how to make money off of one of these.
Don't forget our brand new Phobos t-shirts and hats. Available now through the link in the description below. Phobos, where a fear can be eliminated.
and people had been asking for that in the server for a while. And I was like, maybe I'll probably re-release it with like better designs, besides like the logo and text. But it was just like, this seems fun. This seems like a good place to do this, because I don't think that you could have done. I mean, you say that thing about not being able to do this with ARGs. I don't think I think there's few stories where that would make sense.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine like if you had like Dad drop merch? It wouldn't make a lot of sense. Or like,
well, Dad makes money off of live streams.
Well, true. Yeah, true. But like in terms of like merch specifically, can you imagine if like the Mandela catalog released an in-character video where they were just like, here's a t-shirt.
Yeah, buy our shirts.
Like,
subscribe to our Patreon.
Like it's harder to have like a mysterious government organization give you a shirt than like a company that's about selling things.
Yes.
Which is the point of which was Phobos. And like the irony is not lost on me that the point of Phobos is in part a criticism on consumerism, right. But also I want to make money. So
yeah, that was I applauded when you did that. I was like, yes, I'm so glad you're doing this. I'm so glad you're selling merch. That's great.
And to the consumerism thing, like it wasn't that heavy in terms, like it's not that deep, you know, like it's not. It's just a fun story, I think. But there's bits of it where I'm like, yeah, there's a bit of like, maybe don't trust every ad you see. And maybe like there's one big fish controlling everything. And like these companies that are competing are really just, you know, working under the same people. There's a little bit of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that nobody has solved? Is there anything that like you think people are still looking for or has completely missed?
In terms of, well, there's two answers to that. Because in terms of, there's stuff I want people to solve and find. And I'm like, yeah, there is a lot of stuff here that no one's gone down the rabbit hole of yet. And that I'm very excited to see if people do. The finale itself has a lot of stuff in it that has not codes, but little hints of stuff that no one's brought up yet, which I'll be excited to see. The Yule log has stuff in it.
I was curious. I considered doing a Yule log stream. I'm not going to lie.
There's not a lot of it. It's mostly just the Yule log, but there's a couple little teases and little hints at stuff in there. That was just a fun thing. But then there's also stuff where I'm like, people don't need to solve something. Like there's a Twitter account in the puppet video where the puppets like keep glitching in and out again. It's people assumed it was Morse, but you had to count the numbers of it. Because there was no dots or dashes. It was just a repeating clips.
I started doing that, and then I forgot I had done that until this moment.
That was another account. There was another social media account where you put that in, Phobos, and then the numbers, and you would get another account that had a drive link, which was found somewhere else. That was something that people got somewhere else. There was all those social medias had a part of a link in it. Like they had these random numbers in the bio, and it would be like, oh, that looks like a random typo. It doesn't mean anything. And then you put them all together, and it was a Google Drive link, and it was a document of how people's fears would be removed. It was like these horrible body horror things.
Cool.
Which was just this little like side thing, like a side quest. But no, there's not really any big things that I would like people to go into. There was a 47-step cipher that was not intended in any way to be solved because you couldn't solve it. You know, like that.
Right.
You cannot solve a 47-step cipher.
No.
But it technically, like, you could solve. You know, like, no one would ever solve it, but technically, it could be solved at some point, right? Like, it's one of those like, no one will ever solve this, but because it's a possibility, it's going to be something good. So that was the twist. I wrote out what happened. Like, Johnathan and Godspeed are working for the same person. Jonathan's not evil. And then I ciphered it 47 times in like one of the fourth or fifth video. So that's like, people could look at that and be like, oh, okay. Like if my thing was like, if someone can solve this impossible thing, they deserve to just, they already know.
They just know.
Like, you win. Yeah, like you win. I'm done. But no, that ARG that you came across, that's like this weird like tongue-in-cheek video.
I felt like I had completely fallen off a cliff and was in the wrong area.
Yeah, that was me. I did make that.
Really?
But yeah, that was just sort of that was a joke. That was just a joke. That was just like, this seems like it would be fun. Like this, and there is stuff there. Like, people can go down. There's a phone number. There's an email address. There's stuff hidden in that video that if at some point in the future someone finds that, they can go down. But I'm not super invested to do it, and it doesn't really have anything to do with Phobos. Like, it's just kind of this side thing that calls out Phobos. I don't know if I've said, there's people who know on the server, but I don't think outside of this I've ever said publicly like that was me. Like that, it was not game jacking. I was game jacking myself because I thought it'd be funny. Like that's what I did.
I love the idea that you were putting together this great ARG, and then like in the middle of it you got bored and was like, let me like purposely attack it.
Yeah, no, it was no, because that's I think one of the best ways you deflect game jacking is by game jacking yourself. Like the biggest game jacker to Phobos, really. Like there's a lot of people tried actually. You might be surprised.
I
like,
was wondering, like, if
five
you
or
had
six,
any.
5 or 6 different people like almost successfully threw the story off because this one group, who I'm not even going to give the publicity of naming, like mass commented on all the Phobos videos with bots, and I had to delete them all. Which is why the Phobos comments are held for review now.
Okay.
They've been gone, but like they were like, hey, like they're acting like characters pretty much, and it was very annoying. And then I had a few of the people do that on Reddit, and then, but no, the biggest game jacker was me game jacking myself for fun. Like it was really not. There wasn't anything to it. I just thought like, hey, I really wonder how people are going to react if there is a game jacker in Phobos. And shockingly, people found that channel with the ARG video and were like, hey, you game jack Phobos. I'm going to go to Phobos and support them. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it worked!
Which is fun. It was like, they're like, hey, is this connected to Phobos or are you just trying to take their fame? And I'm like, you support me either way, so good.
That blows my mind.
That was fun.
That was legitimately a mind blow just then. Oh my god.
And all the other like the part where it speeds up and says a bunch of things, it's just call outs of other ARGs. Like they just I don't even know why I just thought it'd be funny. So there's like
so I was entertained.
Yeah, they say like old Newology Network, the sun vanished, like just a bunch of stuff or the moon vanished, like a bunch of like Delta Mart, like these call outs of ARGs I like. Although I will say that the random spinning numbers in that do mean something, and it's not just random stuff.
Okay. If I ever want to jump
that was
back
my thing. I don't recommend it, but you can. Like people can. Like
you can.
I'm not proud of it, but you can. Like that was my biggest thing I want to do with the codes and stuff. Like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that will never be solved and doesn't need to be solved, but everything can be solved. Like there's no random gibberish. Everything in this in some way can be solved.
Okay. So was I on to something when I was like counting how many times the logo spinned?
Yes. Yeah, that was something. Oh no, not in that one. Not but the spinning of the numbers in the ARG video did mean something. And then the poster that was in that had text written on the tape that was holding it up. That would lead you to a subreddit. But again, I don't anticipate people solving that. Like that's not something I don't really care. You know, like it doesn't really mean anything.
So what it sounds that you did, which is very interesting, is there's a lot of hidden information, but there's always multiple ways to kind of get there, which I think is very cool.
That was because like when I started off, I was like, okay, you're gonna get the survey, it's given to you. Then you get the Caesar cipher, which is really easy. And I was like, well, people are gonna want to solve this who don't know what a Grunsfeld cipher is, or who can't run a digital machine. Like someone, I think their username was Tokyo. They're not in the server anymore, but they coded a bot to take the codes from Phobos videos and decipher them. And
wow.
It was cool, and it was really impressive. Like it was really impressive, and it took them like a month, and they like ran it 24/7. But the flip side of that was like, okay, but like no one's really having fun with it now because like you can't. There's a little bit of excitement of like, okay, let's pause the video and let's write this down on paper and let's try to. When you can take that and put it in a machine, and I don't mean like a translator. That's fine. Like that's a given. But when you can like, I don't want people to like make a key ring and do the binary. Like, but like when you have an AI that like Phobos posted, I'm taking the text, I'm solving it. Here's the answer. The other like 400 people who are solving it in that server are like, okay, I guess we talk about it now. So like, there's a bit of fun. That's one thing I wanted to keep in there. So like, if the bot solved the Caesar cipher, then you can okay, well here's a bunch of dots. You know, like think about
good
that.
luck. About ARGs, and I do like a lot of puzzle trails, and people were like, why do you do it? And it's like, well, 99% of the time I'm incredibly frustrated, but that 1% where I figure it out is amazing.
Yeah, it makes it worth it. Like that that feeling that I mentioned earlier that I got, like, okay, I'm watching Gravity Falls. Whoa, there's weird letters on the screen. Let's write that down. What does that mean? Let's get the journal and let's look through the journal and put sticky notes in it. Like, that was a thing I did that I really enjoyed. I remember it was a Christmas time at my grandpa's house, and I just got that journal for Christmas. And I just poured over it.
Yeah.
I just deciphered everything. Like, that's a really fun feeling of stumbling into this thing and being like, whoa, this doesn't feel normal. What's this? And then, like, yeah, obviously, like, Phobos leans way more into the, like, this is fiction, this is comedy, this is an ARG. You know, like, it breaks the fourth wall often. It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's not really scary. Like, it's not intended to be horror. It's more like this weird comedy, I guess. But it has elements in there of, like, you could find one of the Phobos videos and be like, whoa, is this real? Like, that little moment of that is what I really wanted to try and capture.
Yeah, and I think you captured it well. The YouTube algorithm, for some reason, doesn't seem to really like your videos for some reason. Because I was like, let me refresh and I'll watch all of them. And every time I tried to, like, watch them, it never recommended the next video. It was like, all right, this is over. Game Grumps? It's like, no.
I don't even know why that is. And, like, I didn't even, like, they're all tagged with ARG and Phobos and Johnathan and all these things that people would look up. But, like, when you look up Phobos ARG, your channel comes up.
You get me! Yeah! I don't know why!
And it's funny because it's not even the copyright claim videos. Like, the videos that I completely own and get watch time from don't even show up. So I'm not even sure what that is.
Yeah, YouTube is a cruel, cruel mistress, for sure.
Yeah, but I'll live. Like, it's that the goal isn't to be famous with it. If, like, the fact that you streamed it and I got to see someone go through it was amazing. Like, that was fun. That was cool.
Yeah, and thank you for including me in the credits.
Of course. And yeah, no, of course. Everyone who solved it up until, like, the week before the finale was in the credits. Like, pretty much everyone got it made in there because they should have. Like, that they are the reason that this continued as it did. They are the reason it got as big as it did. They are the people I think. I'm grateful for that. Like, that's the players are what make the. Otherwise, just these videos I have sitting here that I watch by myself, like that, which is, to be fair, what I intended it as. I didn't think anyone would see it. So the fact that people are able to see it and play it, at the very least, deserve to be in the credits because they're the reason it exists.
Well, that brings me to my next question. If people are watching this and they want to do this, what have you learned? What advice can you give to an up-and-coming puppet master that wants to create their own series?
That's a great question. Outline everything. Outline your story, what each video is, what clues are going to be in the video. That helped me a lot.
Okay.
Because, like, and again, I fell off it even with the outline, but have an idea of the story. Because I can imagine, like, if I posted the first 3 Phobos videos and I was like, okay, what does Johnathan look like? Like, I had that idea and I had that built. Actually, everything past Nothing Without Me, everything right before just the merchandise videos, those were made later. But everything up to Nothing Without Me was filmed and done and ready to go before the first video went up. Like,
very good.
That was
very
ready.
good.
Because, like, it's not a good idea to, like, and again, I even fell into it with the last few videos in the last few months, like making those and then posting them immediately. The merch video is filmed, edited, and posted in the same day. But you have to, like, really have an idea of what story you want to tell first. Like, you can do a million flashy text on a VHS screen, but if you have a good story there, it doesn't really matter. Like, you look at, I'm not going to call myself, like, I'm not going to talk about my own work, but, like, you look at, like, the sun vanished. Like, that's a phenomenal ARG because or more of a, unfiction, but same thing. You really, like, you would watch that if it was a movie, like, it's not the fact that it's an ARG that makes it good. It's the fact that it's a really compelling story that goes interesting places. And that's what you need to have. Like, that's really what you have to have. Like, you look at, like, just these concepts of things, and you have to make sure that they work. Like, if you have a boring story about a guy who's in the woods and disappears and no one knows what happens to him, it's not fun. And you also have to give, like, I can't speak fully to this because mine was very tongue-in-cheek and breaking the fourth wall and humorous. Mm-hmm. It openly calls itself an ARG multiple times. Right. It references the existence of ARGs, which is something that I think should happen more in general, though, because, like, if it's supposed to be taking place in our world, like, it's going to know what an ARG is, right? Like, a government agency, someone working there is going to be like, what's an ARG? I've never, like, they're just not going to refer to themselves as one.
It's like how in zombie apocalypse movies, nobody knows the word zombie.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, like, I think, like, in The Walking Dead, they say it once. Like, it's like, if it's supposed to, and I think that adds people. You'd assume, okay, if you say the word ARG, you take away the realism of it. But I don't think. I think it's the opposite. I think once you acknowledge that this exists, like for example, you're not going to put like a government agency sending out an emergency alert isn't going to post it on r/ARG. You know, like that's not going to happen. Like so if you and then because either you do that and you bite the bullet, and you're like, okay, I know it's an ARG, you know it's an ARG, suspend your disbelief and play it, or you do the like, hey, I found this weird video in my inbox. Like,
I swear I found it.
Yeah, exactly. Which actually I think it's down now. I think I reposted it, but the original video for the ARG that I made, the joke one, was posted on an alternate account by someone named Raul Parson, not to be like real person. And they were saying like, hey, my friend sent me this video at school. I don't know what it is, but like you should definitely check it out. And then they commented like, I promise, guys, by the way, I didn't make this. I did not make this. This is not mine. Which is just a thing I see a lot. Which again, I get it. Like it's not. Yeah. I don't know how else. I posted stuff there. That's fine. But people got to be okay with doing some stuff out of character because they can get very annoying. Like if you it reminds me like to use an IRL example. I went to San Diego Comic-Con recently, and there was this guy cosplaying as Hawkman from DC, and he had these really cool foldable wings. And I do a lot of cosplay stuff. I own a cosplay shop. Like that's my job outside of this. And like, and it's really fun. I get to design costumes, but like I was like, whoa, that's really cool. Those are amazing. There's these foldable wings. How did you make them? He was like, make them? What are you talking about? These are my wings. And I was like, okay. And I laughed a little bit. I was like, oh, good one. Okay, so but really, how'd you make them? He was like, I can't tell you how to make them. The Legion of Doom could steal my... And I was like, God. So I just walked away. I was like, and I've come across that a lot in ARGs where it's like, it crosses a little too much into like, I don't even know. Like people like when you're posting creepy videos and someone's like, hey, good job, man. Being like, what do you mean, man? I'm an alien. Like, just, I've tried not to do that, which is why when I saw you stumbled across the Time Industries channel, which that link was put there to establish that Time Industries channel and Phobos were made by the same people. That was all that link in that one. It was the same video on both channels. That was just there for people to be like, because there was some confusion about that. People thought,
I was pretty lost when that happened.
Yeah, that was just to be like, hey, FYI, which is why I reached out to you when that happened. Just like FYI, these are the same channel. It's just a repository for it. There's nothing important there. Gotcha. So yeah, that was just a fun little thing. Like that was just like so people are aware. But like people had reached out to me and be like, hey, like when the server first started looking to Phobos, they were like, hey, what happened? They're like, can we make a channel for this to talk about it? And I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. I'm not going to be like, what's the channel? What's Discord? I'm an alien. Like or I'm a monster. Like it gets weird quickly and people can get annoyed quickly. I did do in-character stuff, but the in-character stuff I did through the Discord stuff and through the Reddit stuff was not just pretending to be the character. It was like, you need some information and I don't want to break character right now, so I'm going to very not subtly give you all the information you need. Like that was what that was.
Gotcha. All right. That makes sense. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree that like my other business is wrestling. And
oh wow,
yeah, I'm part of something called Cosplay Pro Wrestling, so I might need to buy gear from you.
Yeah, that's
at some point. But like, it's really annoying when like people will come and like some of the other guys they'll ask about wrestling and they'll be like, "I'm Spider-Man." It's like, no, let them.
Yeah,
they want to be wrestlers. Help this person. So I definitely understand like putting the wall down every now and then. But run out of time. There's two quick things I definitely got to ask you. First, it completely bugged me out when you contacted me through the Axolotl Discord. Did you play the Axolotl game with me?
Yeah, I was in there. I was in there on alt account, and then I brought the thing in. I was like, and then it stopped, and I just stayed in there. I was like, oh, hey, he's here too. This could be funny.
So did you play and send an embarrassing picture of yourself?
I did. I sent a picture of me. I built I'll go quickly through this, but I built a hologram machine for school for my engineering class. And I wanted to be an engineer before I wanted to be a filmmaker, which informed a lot of the stuff I built. But it was me testing it. And it's just my garage with this big, huge wall of fog being projected on it. And it's just this enormous image of Sans from Undertale. Like it's just this huge, gargantuan image of Sans being projected into the air.
Awesome. That's so funny that we were both playing that game.
Yeah.
And we got to talk about Polybius. First
Yes.
off, that machine looks amazing. Did you build that?
It's really cool. I did build it. It works. It's really fun. I got like the arcade innards and stuff online, and I built the machine. It was really fun. It was a really fun build, and I've played Donkey Kong on it because it can run emulators. It's really cool.
Cool.
And then that will be something for that I want to do, which I'm going to say because I don't know how feasibly I can do it, especially with COVID and everything. But like, I had coded a game that got cut from Phobos because there was no place for it and it wasn't finished in time. But I have a little bit of game development knowledge, and I was going to code a game. I was going to leave the arcade machine in public and drop the coordinates, and people would have to go and play it to get the next clue.
That would be insane. I love it.
And I contacted some arcades about it, but like it wasn't able to happen because like people would 100% have stolen it.
Oh, 100%. That machine would be gone.
And two, because like I just didn't have the time to code the whole game. It could happen in the future. A version of it could happen. I could release an online version.
Yeah.
But that was fun because the character of the Observer was something in the server, and it was something that contacted people in the DMs a lot in Reddit, and it would pop up. There were little videos posted, and that character was always kind of referenced as some kind of 80s based technology. Mm-hmm. And people were like, is it Polybius? Is it another arcade machine? And then it became, in the Discord server, it became a lot more of like, okay, so people were like speculating, okay, it's this green colored technology from the 80s that acts as an observer. And that was why, and then the reveal at the end was that it was Polybius. That was the character that's observing everything. And that's sort of our this is like our Rod Sterling to the Twilight Zone of Phobos. Like it's going to be the introductory character.
Okay, all right, way cool. And so that's all coming in chapter 2. Can you tell us anything about what's coming up?
Absolutely. So I think chapter 2 will be less focused on Johnathan. You will see very little of Johnathan, if any, because his story is kind of wrapped up. But you will see a new villain who is, because Johnathan wasn't evil. Like that was the whole thing, right? Johnathan isn't evil. Jonathan's a good guy. But this creature that we're building, which I've spent the last couple months working on prosthetics for, like it's a full-on professional creature suit, like latex, textured, lights, a whole bunch of stuff. This creature is pretty terrifying, does not look like a cartoon character, looks real, and is the definition of evil. This is not something that will be, the stakes are upped. There will be deaths. There's going to be a large cast, much larger of characters, much bigger than the two in this. A lot of actors, a lot of voice actors, musicians, composers. Hopefully, we're upping the production a lot.
Okay.
And we will be seeing a lot more of this world. Phobos is mostly constrained to that room. We will be seeing what a school looks like, what a movie theater looks like, what different places look like in this world where there's monsters.
Okay. Very interesting.
And along with that, there will be ARG elements to that, but it will mostly play as if it was a show. So you'll get a few episodes of the thing, like I said earlier, like you're playing a video game and then you get cutscenes. There'll be very professional cutscenes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I hate to even ask, though, but I have to. It's my job. Any idea on when?
Hopefully, we hope to start shooting principal photography in the next month or so.
All right.
So I can't give an exact date, but next year, most likely.
Okay. I mean, the year's over in a few days, so that sounds fair.
January 1st.
Perfect.
Yeah, it should be pretty fun. And then one of the other things I should mention briefly, because I know we're wrapping up here, is that one of the coolest things that happened with this that I kind of stumbled into creating is that in that server and outside of that server, there's a bunch of ARGs that are connected to Phobos, that occupy the same universe.
Okay.
So this idea that I created of the Justice Department, I have reached out to and been reached out to by about, let me think, 7 or 8 different ARG creators who have all agreed to operate in this shared universe where nothing major happens, but like maybe there'll be a character in another ARG that's like a church. There's this Dayspring Church, which is one of them. And okay, so this is a church, yada, yada. What about God? And they're like, well, there's the Justice Department. So you'll get these little side references to the Justice Department and to whatever's happening in Temecula, and these little, like, the idea that there's something connecting all of this, and there's that idea of the Observer and the Justice Department that overarches all these other ARGs.
So a cool little through line, like American Horror Story.
Yeah, exactly. And my buddy Maxie, they helped this idea because they had 2 ARGs at the beginning when Phobos was starting. We talked about it when it was happening, but like one of the coolest things I've ever seen happen in anything ARG related is people don't know they're connected at first. So it's not like, well, the newest chapter in Phobos, like whatever. Like right. No, it's completely. There's an ARG. There are 2 ARGs. There's one called Detective X, which is this AI detective that gains sentience, and there's another ARG called UI-24, which actually got a bit of traction. That one is like a underwater diver, like horror ARG. Detective X gains sentience and then connects to the UI-24 network, and then all the videos on that channel got deleted. And to see people reacting to that happening was incredible, because it was like, oh, it's an empty threat from this other ARG character. Like, you know that other ARG you're solving? I'm going to delete all their videos. And then all the videos delete. That was cool.
That's wild. That's really cool.
And then they were like, and then this character, Detective X, who was amazing, who I actually got permission to use in Phobos later on. He shows up briefly to help solve clues. But that character is like, do you want the next Phobos clue? And then he gives them the next Phobos clue courtesy of me. So they're like, what is this? What is happening? This is ridiculous. And it's that moment of like, is this real? That's what I really loved about it.
Well, when we get the ARG Avengers together.
Well, you got a bit of, towards the end of Phobos, the stuff with the Observer, and they had different personalities. There's a lot of story in that Observer case, the Polybius thing, which is almost its own separate ARG. But all those things, there were a bunch of different personalities there that were all breaking down. And they had to do this thing where they had to save the Observer. They had to save the original version of Polybius who was talking to them, who was helping them, which became Kinder, which became this sort of, guide figure. And what happened was a bunch of the AIs, so there was a case called Beta, which was an ARG a while ago. There was Detective X from months ago. And then there was just all these AI characters came together in that server and all worked to fix the Observer and then reset it, which was really cool. That was cool to see.
Yeah, that is awesome. All right, well, thank you so much for coming and talking to me today. I learned a lot. Turns out I was pretty bad at this game, but there's a lot of cool things.
You solved a lot of it.
Where can people find you?
You can find me at Time Industries on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere. I have an Etsy store, Time Industries Builds, where you can buy things from me, order commissions, armor, props, anything. And then I should also... nope, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, that's the main places I am, Time Industries.
Yeah. And get that Phobos merch.
Yeah, get the Phobos merch. Buy the merch.
All right, Justin, thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been a great time. And be sure, if you're watching, to subscribe to my channel, or you can watch me suffer through this game very poorly. But I do my best. Thank you so much for watching.